Think about the opening of the movie Gravity. A routine spacewalk and then debris tears through everything, and Sandra Bullock's character is flung off into the black, spinning, untethered, the Earth wheeling past her. It's one of the most terrifying scenes ever filmed about space. A body, alone, exposed. What it gets wrong is the body. Spend a few seconds on what a vacuum really does to a human being, and you'll find it stranger and more counterintuitive than anything Hollywood has put on screen. In 1965, in a NASA test chamber in Texas, a man's spacesuit sprang a leak. His name was Jim LeBlanc, and he was testing a suit in a vacuum chamber built to simulate space. A hose disconnected. The pressure around him dropped toward the vacuum of orbit. And in the 14 seconds before he lost consciousness, he felt something he never forgot. The saliva on his tongue beginning to bubble and boil. Not because it was hot, because it was the opposite of what you'd think. In a vacuum, with no pressure holding it together, the water in his own mouth was turning to vapor at body temperature. He survived. The technicians repressurized the chamber within seconds. But for those few seconds, Jim LeBlanc became one of the only humans to feel the real beginning of what a vacuum does to a body. And it looks nothing like the movies. Everything I do in an operating room depends on pressure and gases behaving the way they're supposed to. Oxygen in the blood, carbon dioxide out, the lungs holding a certain pressure, gases dissolved and tissue staying dissolved. A vacuum takes every one of those rules and breaks it at once, and the way it breaks them is precise enough to map. Let's clear away the myths first, because they're everywhere. You do not explode. Your skin is a tough, elastic container, more than strong enough to hold your body together against the vacuum. You'll swell, tissues puff up as gases and water vapor expand, but you stay in one piece. You do not instantly freeze. Space is cold, but a vacuum is empty, and heat needs something to touch to leave your body quickly. With almost nothing around you, you actually lose heat slowly. You'd be unconscious from lack of oxygen long before cold became the problem. And you do not have 30 seconds of useful action like the movies suggest. You have less. The real number is closer to 15 seconds before you pass out, because of something specific and counterintuitive about how your blood gives up its oxygen when the pressure disappears. To understand it, go back to the late 1800s and a French scientist named Paul Bert, the father of high altitude and pressure medicine. Bert put animals in pressure chambers and discovered the rules that govern gases in the body. The crucial one is this: how much oxygen your blood can carry and how willingly it gives that oxygen up depends on the pressure of the oxygen around you. Drop the pressure low enough and the relationship reverses. Your blood, instead of delivering oxygen to your brain, starts dumping it back out into your lungs and away, because the partial pressure outside is now lower than inside. In a true vacuum, your lungs don't just fail to supply oxygen, they actively pull it out of your bloodstream. The blood reaching your brain in those first seconds is already being stripped of the oxygen it's carrying. That's why consciousness goes so fast, faster than simply holding your breath underwater. The vacuum isn't passively starving you, it's reaching in and taking what you've got. Paul Bert mapped these rules a century before anyone went to space. We just had to learn to trust them. The deadliest mistake you could make in a vacuum is the one instinct everybody has: holding your breath. On Earth, holding your breath protects you. In a vacuum, it can kill you in the worst possible way because the air in your lungs, no longer held in by outside pressure, expands violently. If your airway is sealed shut, that expanding gas has nowhere to go but into the delicate tissue of your lungs, rupturing them, forcing air bubbles into your bloodstream, causing the kind of catastrophic injury that even immediate rescue can't undo. The counterintuitive survival move is the opposite of instinct. You exhale. You let the air rush out and keep your airway open so your lungs can vent harmlessly instead of tearing themselves apart. The people who train for this are taught against every reflex they have to breathe out and stay calm. And they have maybe 15 seconds of useful consciousness to do the right thing before the lights go out. The whole thing unfolds in a sequence you can actually time. Second 0, pressure vanishes. Water on exposed surfaces, your eyes, your tongue, your lungs lining begins to vaporize. Tissues swell as gases expand. It's uncomfortable, but it's survivable. The first few seconds, the real danger to the lungs. If the airway is open, expanding air vents out safely. If it's held shut, the lungs can rupture. This is the make or break moment. Around 10 to 15 seconds, oxygen drains from the blood faster than normal, because the low outside pressure pulls it the wrong way. The brain, starved, loses consciousness. Mercifully, the person feels little after this. The next minute or two, without repressurization, the lack of oxygen becomes fatal, but the body doesn't destroy itself the way the myths suggest. If you put that person back into pressure within a minute or two, they can often be revived like Jim LeBlanc was. The vacuum doesn't end the body instantly. It switches it off, and if you're fast enough, you can switch it back on. We are surrounded constantly by a force we never think about, the simple weight of the air pressing in on every inch of us. We evolved inside that pressure so completely that we don't even feel it. It's the invisible container that keeps our blood holding its oxygen, our lungs intact, the water in our cells liquid. Remove it, and the body doesn't dramatically explode. It quietly comes apart at the level of physics. For the medical students listening, that's the real lesson. The most powerful forces acting on a patient are usually the ones nobody's looking at. The invisible baseline you've stopped noticing because it's always there. Good medicine and good survival comes from understanding the things you take for granted before they're taken away. Jim LeBlanc walked out of that chamber alive because the people watching understood the physics and acted in seconds. Knowing the truth calmly beats every myth Hollywood ever sold you. See you in the next case. Like and follow for more.